Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Hello and welcome to this Friday Tipping Postcast. I'm Maddie Plell, joined in the studio by Paul Keeley. We have David Jennings and James Ryan from Paddy Power on the line as well. Looking ahead to a blockbuster weekend of action, we're going to start off with Doncaster and Kempton, which are both on ITV Racing. Chaps, plenty to get our teeth stuck into. Let's start off with the 150 as the Unibet Camage Trophy Stakes, a listed race. James, how do they bet?
Invincible Army is our 11-4 favourite. Equilateral 3-1. Arbalete 4-1, Major Jumbo 6-1, 9-1 bar.
Excellent. Now, someone who's very much getting back into the flat groove of things, I'm struggling a little bit. This race just seemed impossible to me, Keels. Is there any angle that are you confident on anything?
I thought Arbalete was a big price earlier in the week. I'm not so sure now because he's shortened a fair bit. I think it's quite tight at the top. You could make a case for Invincible Army definitely being favourite if he returns to his early season form. Obviously, Equilateral was a big talking horse last season. Does run very well fresh, but whether he's actually good enough, I don't know. Arbalete had some really good big field form last year. Finished the 5th or 6th in the Jersey Stakes, and then was second in the big 7 furlong handicap at Ascot. And early in the season he looked like he needed the trip, and then at the end of the season he was racing quite freely, especially that time at Ascot. And I thought he's quite well worth a drop to 6 furlongs and see whether he can go. It'd be my choice, but he's a shorter price, and a few horses I fancy later on much more strongly. Okay,
interesting. DJ, do you agree?
It's funny how you said this is probably one of the most open races of the day. This is my strongest fancy of the day. I would be very sweet on Equilateral. Now, obviously, when you look at his form, he's pretty unpredictable, but there's a few things here that makes him very, very appealing, I think. Like, as Paul said, he goes really well fresh. He's won after 251-day absence and a 52-day break. He's 1 from 1 at Doncaster, and that performance was absolutely exceptional that day when he won by 8 lengths over this course and distance. Obviously won't be quite as quick the ground here, but and then you look at Charlie Hills and you see how has he started the season. Like, he's had, of his last 4 runners, 3 of them have won and 1 of them has been second, so his team are obviously in decent form. And going back through this horse's form, you can completely forget about its run over 5 at Dundalk, because it got kind of hampered halfway through the race, shuffled back through the pack, and was forced to kind of make his challenge very, very wide. So you can kind of forget that run. And, his RPRs have been pretty okay in the context of this race. 111 when it won at Leicester, 106, 105. So he hasn't lost his form as much as his form figures would suggest. I think he's a very, very good horse, and I think now could be the time to catch him. I don't think he's ever going to win a Group 1 sprint or anything like this, but this is his level. The stable is in top form. He likes to track. He goes well fresh. I think he ticks so many boxes, and he's actually my strongest fancy the whole day on Saturday.
Okay, very interesting there. Lots of confidence behind Equilateral from DJ. James, what do you see happening?
Yeah, and I'm going for the other one, Invincible Army here. I thought he just ran really fresh last year, and the Sandy Lane obviously had very strong form when he was just beaten a nose by Sands of Mali, who's obviously come out and franked that. Obviously he's drawn on the outside today, but I wouldn't mind that as much because he was drawn kind of 7 of 8 at Haydock that day, but he ended up on the outside of the field and could settle. All his best form has come when there's been no firm in the ground, and even the last day, he kind of hung a little bit to the side, and they gave him the rest of the year off, so I think that they're coming back. And the fact they're running him so soon, I just think he probably is ready, and he probably is the horse that could, he could still be a Group 1 horse considering that early form where he beat Equilateral and Sands of Mali. I just think he could be a few pounds better than the rest of these.
Okay, we're covering our bases then in the Camage Trophy. We'll move on to the 225 at Donny again, which is the Unibet Spring Mile Handicap. 2 at the top of the market, Exec Chef and Sod's Law, have really similar profiles. James, presumably they're going to be well fancied.
They are indeed, and we're in extra place here as well. So Exec Chef is our 6-1 favourite, followed by Aljalja B 6-1, Sod's Law 13-2, Rampant Line 7-1, and a heap of them then 9-1 and 10-1 bar.
Where do we start, Paul Keeley?
Start and finish with the winner, Petrus, trained by Brian Meehan. I think he's got a massive chance. He was a borderline group horse as a 2-year-old, rated 101, only beaten just over 4 lengths by Roaring Lion in one of those group races he ran in. Last year, he's come down on rates, but ran well on several occasions. Now he was third at Ascot in a straight course race there that worked out really well. The winner went to Hong Kong, is about £15 higher. The 6 is about £17 higher, and he's dropped a couple of pounds since then as well. He's down to 91, which is £10 lower than he started the season. He's got first-time cheek pieces. Trainer has 20% strike rate in first-time cheek pieces since 2016, which is double his overall strike rate in the same period. He's a first-time gelding. Now, Brian Meehan's only run a handful of horses in this race in the last 10 years. Won the race with Manassas. He was a first-time gelding who had dropped £11 in the ratings since running in group races as a 2-year-old. I think he's been absolutely laid out for the race and he'll win.
That was like poetry, absolute poetry. What price can we get on him, James?
12 to 1 at the moment.
12 to 1, okay, I can see that considerably shortening. DJ?
Oh, that was impressive.
It was.
My case isn't half as strong as that. I'm starting to fancy Petrus now, but originally before I started listening to Keels, I fancied Aljalja B for a couple of reasons. Just the fitness edge, I think, is a key one. Obviously, he's had 2 runs in January in the all-weather. Beaten favourite both times, beaten short price favourite 6-4 and 7-4, but was just beaten by Chief of Chiefs, who's obviously a decent yardstick, and then everything went wrong at Lingfield last time behind Mr. Scaramanga. For a front runner, missed a break, tried to chase up to the front, got to the front 2 out, but then it used up all the petrol to get there. But I think for a front runner, he's drawn in stall 16 of 16. Now, last year's winner, High Acclaim, was drawn in stall 1. But if you go back through this race since 2010, there's been winners from 15, 19, and 16 has won it twice. And I remember Eaton Forever winning this race from stall 16. I think it was about 5 years ago, and he virtually made all. He sat second and then won quite convincingly. I just think Aljalja B, for a front runner who's fit, I think stall 16 is perfect. And given that he is fit and he is raring to go, I think he'll definitely be in the first 4. But it sounds like he's going to finish second to Petrus, Maddie.
It does indeed. James, can you see Petrus going very well?
I can indeed, especially after that chat. I think I kind of went for one a little bit risky now. I'm going for Sands Chorus. I just thought it was a fairly open field, but the handicapper has dropped him £9 for sitting in his box over the winter. He hasn't run well now in 18 months, but he ran second in the Cambridgeshire at 100 to 1. He's switched stable to Scott Dixon, so hoping that he'll find kind of a bit of a new love for the game. Theodore Ladd has taken another £5 off, first time cheek pieces. I don't think there's going to be too much of a draw bias, kind of DJ mentioned, and he's drawn low, so it's not necessarily a negative. But the one thing I do like is that he's the only pace on that side of the track, so he could get a nice lead. And with the 5 places that we have on offer, I think he could go, well, if he could recapture his old form, I think he could go close, but he'll be a very big price. But I do like Petrus as well.
Okay, could be a bit of value to be had there. Then the 3 o'clock is the Unibet Doncaster Mile Stakes, and big handicap form coming to the fore here in the shape of Aljalja Bridge, last year's Balmoral winner. Again, James, he's likely to be towards the head of most people's lists, I suspect.
He is indeed. He's our 8 to 11 favourite. Remarkable is 9 to 2. Red Starlight 6 to 1. Circus Couture 7 to 1 and 12 to 1 bar.
Seeing as your last sort of spiel was so effective, take it away.
I don't know. This one of you should really give it to DJ, because I think Aljalja Bridge paid for his wedding last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
DJ.
Yeah, Aljalja Bridge and me go back a long way, Maddie. He's one of the only horses in training that stayed loyal to me and hasn't done the dirt on me over the years.
Wow. Are you going to be sticking loyal to him again?
Oh yeah, just to cut a long story short, this ran in the Balmoral, and I've spoken about a kind of a betting friends group that I've been in over the years. We all support Liverpool, and we're all going to the Liverpool Huddersfield game, second last home game of the season. And the reason we're going is because of Aljalja Bridge, because there's 11 of us in it, and it's our turn every 11 weeks, and it was my week that week, and I put up Aljalja Bridge. And because I was so sweet in it, we ended up having 250. The usual bet is 50 quid that you have to bet with. And we decided to have 250 quid each way at 16 to 1. And if anybody's seen the Balmoral...
Can I join this group, please? I'm not a Manchester fan, but...
Yeah, you're more... well, are you a Liverpool fan? That's the main thing.
Oh, sorry. Got that right round my neck, didn't I? Yeah. Not particularly, DJ, but I could be if it means I'm going to be winning loads of money.
The lads might have you. And the key thing was, if you look back at the Balmoral, it was the most astonishing race to watch, because he traded at 150 to 1 in running. James Doyle had possibly 10 or 12 horses in front of him heading into the final furlong. And how he got up is an absolute mystery. He looked that day like he was virgin on Grade 1 class. I hope this year he goes on. He's definitely a Group 2 horse, so I hope he goes on to prove it. This Lister race should be a cup of tea for him.
Okay. Kills, I went to you first to get your selection. Didn't get anything.
Yeah, I know, we passed it over. No, I mean, I can say that, Aljalja B is the most likely winner, but one of these things you find out about these handicappers who are used to running in big fields, that when they get into small field conditions races, things don't pan out quite that way. Is he going to get the strong pace that he likes to come off at? Probably not. So that would make me worry. I mean, start of the season, first time out, odds on in a flat race, not for me. I'm not going to take the race particularly seriously, but I mean, it's almost, sacrilege not to have an each way bet on Gabriel when he won at Doncaster on Lincoln Day, isn't it? Because he's been fourth in the last 2 Lincolns. He won it in 2015. He won this race in 2013, believe it or not. And he's 12-1. He will run his race. He probably won't win because he very rarely wins these days. But if I have a bet in the race, I'll have a couple of quid each way on him.
Legend, reliable Gabriel. James Ryan.
My notes are pretty much the exact same as Paul's there. First start of the season, I find it hard enough to put him up as an odds-on shot when he's been running those big field handicaps, getting a strong pace. And again, Gabriel has run well here every year at Doncaster in his first start. And I just think, he should be competitive, and he's the one at an each way price I'd go for as well.
Just one thing, Maddie, on Sharjah Bridge. I actually think he might make all here. I know he was he was held up in the Balmoral, but earlier on in his career he had no problem lining up with the pace, and I'm not sure where the pace angle is going to come from here, so I actually think he could even make all or sit second.
Okay, interesting tactically then. Before we go for a break, we'll move on to the 335, which is the Unibet Lincoln. Plenty of sort of subplots in this. Auxerre, Godolphin, they won it with Secret Brief. He's come in for a lot of money. So has Saltonstall, the Irish Raider. Keels, funnily enough, I want to start off with a horse called Kinran, because I remember you telling me to back him at Sandown last season, and you could not see him beaten. And
It was one of my 50th birthday drinks, that was, at Sandown, and I think it was the last race on the card.
It was
the last race on the card.
I think I had about £2.50
I had bought 3 magnums of champagne at like 95 quid each, and I was winning quite a few £100, and I had all of it on Kinran. And I don't know. I mean, I was calling the jockey all sorts, as you do after they lose, but he should have won. But I mean, he hasn't won since, is he? You know what I mean? He just gets beat a lot, doesn't he? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does.
I'm sure he'll run his race. I think he might want the ground a little bit softer than it is, although he does go on pretty much anything.
Anyway, just sort of throw.
Yeah, throw it in. Yeah, I remember that. It was a painful one. That was, like,
me as well.
If I hadn't have had the bet, like, I'd have left and covered all the drinks that I was buying and whatever. But there you go. Never mind. You do silly things every now and again.
Anyway, your selection is the gamble of the race.
Well, one of them. I mean, there seem to have been several of them, but no, I like Saltonstall. He was second in the Lincoln in the Irish Lincoln last year, and he won a good race at the Curragh afterwards on good ground. So he handles good ground. He just doesn't like it too fast. It was too fast when he ran in the Hunt Cup, but he was only 10-1 in that race, and that was a miles better race than this, and he was off a £3 higher mark. And he clearly goes well fresh. He's been brought over here. They could have run him in the Irish Lincoln where Aidan McGuinness ran Master Speaker, and he said earlier in the week he was almost crying that he had to take him out, and that gives you a clue of how well the horse has settled in there since, he's a good Godolphin cast-off, was with Michael Halford last season. So I'd imagine there's a big run expected from him. He looked very well when the trainer posted a picture of him arriving at Doncaster this morning on Twitter. So, everything's in place for a big run for him. I think he's potentially one of the best handicap horses in the race. Definitely by what he was doing early last season. So we'll see with that. I think you have to take on Auxerre. He's a terribly short price for a horse with no big field handicap form, and whose last time out form hasn't worked well. If he doesn't drift, that'll tell you that there is a hell of a lot of confidence behind him. But to me, he has to nearly double in price by off time. 7-2 is a stupid price. Can't see why anybody would want to back him at that price.
Okay.
The other one I would been tempted to.
I was going to roll you into this.
Oh, yeah, roll me into it. And you told me you backed it earlier at silly big prices, but I'd almost forgotten about it. But a mate of mine said, "Why haven't you tipped Beringer?" And I'm like, "Well, what's all that about then?" And he said, "You've been banging on about it all last season to me. This horse wants dropping back to a mile." And, oh yeah. But every time I looked at his price, it's just got shorter and shorter. So I feel like I've missed the boat now. So I'm just going to stick with Saltonstall.
I'm sailing away on that boat.
So I think it was the most right. But I mean, with Alan King in great form, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he runs very well.
Yeah, happy that he was the last one in. Anyway, we should have gone to you before, James. Take it away with the betting.
No problem at all. And we're 6 places in this race instead of 4. And Auxerre is our 7-2 favourite. Saltonstall 8-1, Kinrin 8-1, Beringer 9-1, South Seas 10-1, Humbert 10-1, 11-1 bar.
Who's your winner?
I'm going for Beringer.
Yes.
I just think this race could really suit him, and the drop back to a mile, like loads of his form has worked out really well. It's behind Wizzahicken, obviously he's potential Group 1 horse. Third behind Communique, who's now 17 pounds higher. Second behind Escalator, who's now 14 pounds higher. He travels so well. I think this test will really suit him. I'd love to see him being ridden cold. You know, there seems to be a good bit of pace on in the low kind of side of things, so I'd love to see him kind of go that side of the track. And I love the way that Alan King booked Azzini early on in the week, thinking that, you know, he would get in. Now, we'd been talking about him in the office for a good while. Niall is very keen on him, thinking that, you know, but we were giving him long odds against that he would actually get in. But the fact that he did get in, I think he could be very hard to beat. He could be very well handicapped.
He's got a very, very good, solid place in my heart, Beringer. Big fan of him. Son of See the Stars. DJ, who's your fancy?
I'm on the boat. You're
on the boat?
Yeah,
brilliant.
14s. I'm a big Beringer fan. Like, what James was saying there about the Wizzahicken form, what people forget is he traded at 1.06 that
He looked like he was going to canter all over him, didn't he?
It looked like for him to travel over a horse that good and travel so strongly. Like, you have to remember, Wizzahicken that day was rated 94. And now he's rated 117, so that's 23 pounds in the difference, whereas Beringer, I think, is only £6 higher. And I just thought throughout his whole career it's looked as though he's crying out for a mile. You know, like, he's only had one start over a mile, which is hard to believe. Like, when you see a horse like him that travels so well over 10 furlongs, I think Yeah, I think they did. Yeah, I just think this race is tailor-made from Andrea is a good booking, and Alan King has had 8 winners in the last fortnight. So again, you know, there's plenty there to get you excited. But one horse that must be too big of a price is Alan King's other runner, Chattez, who I was fancying to run a big race in the big handicap hurdle.
I remember this, yeah.
Ascot, yeah, and he jumped absolutely deplorably and was too keen. Now, I don't know if anybody has read Alan King's column in the Weekender this week, but like, it's very interesting because he kind of talks a little bit about Beringer, kind of going, you know, he's had a good break, he's ready to start off, but he'll come on for the run. You just hope that's kind of newspaper talk, I hope. But then it comes on to Chattez, and it's kind of like, hopefully we can add to that with Chattez. Or he goes, I hope to have 40 or 50 horses this year, and the team are in good form with a dozen wins already on the board. Hopefully we can add to that with Chattez in the Unibet Lincoln at Doncaster on Saturday, and I'm very happy with him. He won the Spring Mile Consolation race back in 2015, still works very well at home, and ran some really good races last autumn. You can forget his hurdles run as he's a much better flat horse than he is a jumper. But I just hope it doesn't dry up too much for him, as he's a proper soft ground horse. So obviously the ground is a key thing for Chattez, but it sounds to me like he's given Chattez a big chance. And when you go back to that run in the Spring Mile in 2015, like, he absolutely bolted up off 93. I think he's only £3 higher now. He's up to 96. He's a very, very good horse that doesn't deserve to be 40-1. So my 2 plays in the race will be the 2 Alan King horses, Chattez at 40-1 and Beringer.
Lovely. I like the first half of that. The second half was just putting me off a little bit. I got a bit too excited about Beringer, so bringing me back down to earth before it inevitably all goes wrong. Anyway, we'll take a quick break now, but stay with us.
So, does an each way bet mean that my horse has to do part of the race in reverse?
Everyone loves a newbie. That's why Paddy Power Games are giving all new customers 60 free spins on daily jackpot games. New Paddy Power Games customers only, 1 per customer. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this Friday tipping postcast, and Kempton is going to be our next port of call, the 205. Now, a horse who's been plying his trade really well is Matterhorn, and he's probably going to be a lot of people's fancy in this, but some very smart horses in there as well. James, how do they bet?
Matterhorn is our 7-4 favourite. Muta Sadir is 3-1, Fabricate 9-2, Extra Elusive 8-1 and 10-1 bar.
Yeah, now, Keels, I spoke to Hugo Palmer before Mutasadir made his reappearance, and he absolutely loves this horse. He wants to send him to the Melbourne Cup. He thinks he's a graded horse. He's going to be winning all the Cup races. So I'll be definitely keeping an eye on him. But who is your selection?
I think I'm struggling to get past the favourite just because he's been doing it so easily, and he's been doing it on the clock as well. According to top speed, he has by miles the biggest top speed figure in the race, and he's drawn one. He's going to go from the front. Looks dead straightforward. He had them all beaten with 3 furlongs to run last time, and they were all rowing away behind him. And he went to a race post rating of 118, which is incredibly high for a handicap, let alone an all-weather handicap. And he just seems to be unbeatable around there. So I think it'd be hard to beat.
Keep it simple, DJ.
I can't believe this. I was petrified that I was going to tip Matterhorn, and Keels is going to give out stink to me for tipping such a short price favourite. So now I'm very, very happy. Everything Paul says, I echo. Like it's just hard to see how he doesn't win, and that's a little bit worrying.
Okay, well, at least that's sorted this right out. James, do you agree with the lads?
I think he's a deserving favourite, but I do like Mutasadir, even though he's given him £5, which is a slight negative. But at the prices, I'd probably go for him. I just think that, Matterhorn has been doing it in handicap company. Mutasadir looks a kind of solid group horse, but again, I wouldn't have too strong an opinion on the race. Okay,
we'll move swiftly on then to the 240 at Kempton. The Matchbook Racing is commission-free handicap. Soldier's Minute bounced back to form last time. Smart Juvenile. Is he towards the head of the market, James?
He is indeed. He's our 11-4 favourite. Al-Wazmia is 5-1. Desert Doctor 6-1. Hadef 6-1 and 9-1 bar.
Paul Keeley, what have you got for us?
Well, Soldier's Minute is up 2 rungs and £10. 2 rungs on the class ladder and £10. To me, that's a lot. I know he won very easily last time, and I think there's a horse in there who just shapes as though he's in the form of his life. And that is George Bowen. He was third 2 starts ago, coming up the inside, probably not the right place to be at Wolverhampton 2 starts ago, and then ran over 5 furlongs at Lingfield last time and basically finished on the bridle. And that would be his first run over 5 furlongs for a hell of a long while. But he couldn't get in, he couldn't get any sort of run. Jockey never managed to pick his whip up, and he was only beaten a couple of lengths.
Bit of a quirky old customer, isn't he?
He is a quirky old customer. The thing about Wolverhampton and Lingfield, both got short straights. Kempton's much, much longer. It's going to suit him down to the ground. There isn't a vast amount of pace in the race, but I think he can definitely win. You've got to look at his handicap mark. He was fifth in the Stewards Cup last year. He won very easily the Scottish Stewards Cup before that. He's back on that sort of mark. I think he's on 102, which is only a couple of pound higher. I think he's got a massive chance.
Yeah, one of those horses that's bound to win one of these and be really impressive. James, I'll go back to you first again to mix it up.
Yeah, I think Al-Wazmia is a fairly interesting filly. Now she's been off for quite a while, almost 18 months, but that day she won a listed race and just very impressively, and she just kind of screamed that she could be a group filly in the making. So mark of 97 kind of seems a little bit lenient. However, it is the first start after a long absence. She's a poor enough draw in 12, and you could definitely be saying that this won't be her main target for the year, but I just think that she has the potential to be a group horse and potentially a different class to these, so she'll be the one I'd have a small each way on if I can.
Looking ahead to the future then, DJ.
I hate myself for this, but I fancy Soldier's Minute. I can see the cases the lads are trying to make against Soldier's Minute, but this horse started handicapping last season off a mark of 97. I think he won a Musselburgh maiden, but started off 97. I know he's gone up £10 for winning over the course and distance, but he won very, very easily, and it was his first run since he's been gelded, which I think is the key thing as well here. I just thought he won by 4. He could have won by 8. He's up to 93. It's a better race, but he's drawn in stall 4, and I think he could have a very, very good season sprinting this year, Soldier's Minute. I always thought early on in his career he was a good horse, and I think this year he might start to fulfil that potential. He's favoured, and I really didn't want to tip him, and I kind of went through everything else hoping I'd find something that I fancied stronger, but I wouldn't back him, but I do think he's the most likely winner.
I love that. I could hear Keels grumbling in my ear as you went through that. The 3:15 at Kempton is the Matchbook betting podcast Rosebery Handicap. Another really competitive and tough affair. James, run us through the betting.
Forbidden Planet is our 130 favourite, followed by Count Calabash 5-1, Casper the Cub 5-1, Kelly's Dino 11-2 and Desert Wind 7-1.
Nice race to get your teeth stuck into this one, Keels.
Casper the Cub is 5-1.
He is indeed.
Really? Much bigger now, I swear. Surely he is. But anyway, I didn't think he was anywhere near that short. He is with you.
He's 5 the powers. With other firms that we won't mention, 5 of them, in fact, he's 10 to 1. So obviously somebody in Power fancies him.
Paddy Power, I agree with you, Paddy Power. Yeah, I think he's a massive player. I think that, he got well trounced by Count Calabash last time, but it was a small field, steadily run race, and he was out the back, and it was all over by the time he got out. Earlier on there, last December, he beat Count Calabash quite easy, coming from the back in a stronger run race in a bigger field. He has won at Kempton in the 2 biggest fields he's run, and he's never been out of the first 3 there. He has drifted with some firms because he's drawn stall 16, but that really with him doesn't matter because he's going to be dropped out.
Okay.
I think Cosmic Sun won it from stall 15 a few years ago, doing exactly the same. That's what Nicola Coe is going to do, because that's what the horse wants to be done with. So I think he's a massive player, and I can't believe he's as short as 5 to 1. I haven't seen him drift, but I would certainly have him a lot shorter than the bigger prices out there.
Okay, he's very consistent, isn't he? DJ.
Yeah, I'm all over Casper the Cub. I think this is possibly only the second time yourself and Keels have agreed, but
I much prefer it when you two disagree and you have like those little fight things that we did.
I know,
Yeah. He started winning a couple now.
Yeah, I know. I'm evening it up a little bit. I was a long way behind, but Casper the Cub. I just think, like, you look at his form figures at Kempton, 3-3, 1-1-1, 1-2. Just loves the place, and this is one of the occasions where you look at the draw and I don't give a shit where he's drawn, because like it's basically, it'll basically, you know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to come out, kind of stall a little bit and go towards the inside, be held up, and you go back through some of them runs, and I completely agree with Paul last time. Like, it was such a slowly run affair, nothing went right, and I thought Tom Marquand was quite easy once he kind of accepted the situation very early. I thought 10s each way was a huge price. I think 5s is probably a little bit short. So somewhere in the middle is probably the right price. But yeah, I'm a Casper the Cub fan.
All right, James, are you in on Casper the Cub? You're going to make it 3 out of 3?
I do like him as a horse, but I'm going with Desert Wind in this. I just think he could have an extra few pounds in hand. He was 4th in the Britannia last year and has already shown a potent ability over the all-weather before that. He ran in that same hot 3-year-old handicap the Barringer was behind Communique in, and obviously Communique has gone on to frank that form really well. He hasn't been seen since that one, but I just think, he could actually be the one that could basically have in essence of nearly £10 in hand here. I just think he could actually go really well. I'd say he'll be shorter as well after we price it up properly.
Okay, before we get your Saturday naps, any other fancies, Keels?
Yeah, got a few. There is one at Stratford in the 340 who I backed to Cheltenham and actually ran better than the pulled up finishing FHS. Not what I am.
Oh yes, I've heard lots about this horse.
He was actually making ground between the last 2 and looked like he might play a hand, but I don't know what happened to him. But the jockey pulled him up once he couldn't. Once he couldn't win, I think he probably outclassed them off the top of the weights there in the 340. There were 2 at Utoxeter trained by John Joe, ridden by John Joe. Terry the Fish. Quite funny. Ran a close second off a mark of 127, earned a Racing Post rating of 139 for doing so, and got left on the same mark by the handicapper. 6 weeks later, he comes to Utoxeter, where he's won the last 3 times he's run over hurdles. This is a chase. That one has to win. And there's another one called Mont Royal, who was a little bit of an outsider. Or should be at least, but didn't run that badly when last of 4 last time. That's his first completion in 3. Got dropped £4 for it. John Joe takes over, takes another 5 off. 1 off a £1 higher mark the last time he ran at Utoxeter. So I think he'd be quite interested in their price too. And obviously John Joe's also running well now.
Yeah, and plenty of love for his son, who is just a wizard in the saddle by all accounts. Yep. DJ?
Oh, I can't believe Paul is after stealing my thunder here with Not What I Am. I'm very, very sad. Very, very sad because
I was going to say, how many other people from Paddy Power as well were all in on this? I know Darren Hughes was.
Well, the reason I'm very, very sad is that I'm saying like that I'm a sad case in that I watched all the Cheltenham races. Possibly, I think I've watched them all maybe 6 times now, which is hard to believe. I had all the ITV coverage. Yeah, I had all the ITV coverage taped, as we used to say, but it's not taped anymore. What do you say? Is Sky
recorded?
Plus? Sky Plus or recorded?
Recorded.
Yeah. Recorded will do.
Yeah, I had all the Not What I Am, or all the Cheltenham races, recorded, and I look through them time and time again, looking for eye catchers, looking for different things, and this Not What I Am. Like, it was an astonishing run, and it made me think that the horse was maybe injured. I think he went down to maybe 3-1 in running, and he absolutely tanked, and I mean tanked through that Pertemps final. He was still hard in the bridle 2 out. Obviously, it's a long run from the second last to the last, but on ITV, the camera angles are side on in the home straight, and he actually looked like he was making ground approaching the final flight. And about 100 yards from the final flight, his run obviously stopped, and Harry Skelton decided, right, that's it, enough is enough, and just pulled him up straight away. And I didn't know if it was because he was injured, and I didn't know if we'd see him again this season, but the way he travelled through that race, you have to take it on trust that he's come out of the race okay. The way he travelled through that race was, like, he literally did poke your eye out. He was one of the biggest eye catchers I found when watching the recordings. And I think Stratford, where he's turning, it's not as much of a test. It's not as undulating. I think that'll suit Not What I Am much better. I'd be very surprised if he's beaten. And just one more. The racing suggests that this horse can't win, but I think he can. Medicine Jack in the 250 at Navan won first time out last season. Now he's against Sergei Prokofiev, Son of Rest. It's a really good sprint, a listed Cork Stakes at Navan. And I just think Medicine Jack, like, races like these are his Gold Cups or derbies, so to speak, on the flat. He just... These are the races he needs to be taken advantage of, and given that Ger won the Lincoln in Ireland last week with Carawan, his team seemed to have started the season in good form, and I'm going to give Medicine Jack a chance in that 250 at Navan.
Before we get the naps, James.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that listed race in Navan as well. Just wanted to bring people's attention to that, and we're 4 places in that, but there's some really good horses in that. It's a really interesting race. And later on in that card, there's a maiden that I thought was a horse that went straight into my tracker after he ran yet last year, a horse called Inflection Point. He was 9th in a Kerr maiden, but that maiden has worked out really well, with Jaskin winning a maiden, Circus Maximus rated 110, Playa del Punto beat Western Australia the last day, has gone to Hong Kong, and Breaking Story also now a proper listed horse, but he was just so green if you go back and watch it, and he's been gelded since. And Ger had a 3-year-old that was second in a maiden up in Naas on the first day of the season. I just think he could go really close, and he might be a bit of a price seeing as he has that 9 beside his name, but if you go back and watch that race, he just didn't have a clue what he was doing. I think he's very interesting going forward.
So, Keels, you're not going to have me singing Steve Palmer, I'm afraid. I don't know if you want to take to the stage or anything, but let's get you Saturday nap.
It will be Petrus in the 225 at Doncaster.
Nicely done. David Jennings.
No doubt about it. Equilateral in the 150 at Doncaster.
Okay, and James Ryan.
I'm going to take on Keels and go for Behringer in the Lincoln.
Okay, fabulous. And I will be back just after this break.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet the next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
So welcome back to this Friday tipping postcast. On Sunday there is action at Limerick, Doncaster and Ascot. The ones we've got written down here are from Ascot. The 245 is the Colts and Fillies Club Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. Do you know what? I hate these juvenile handicap hurdles. I think they're absolutely impossible, Paul Keeley. So please enlighten me as to who...
Yeah, they are impossible.
How do you approach them? What do you do?
Well, I mean, they're extremely hard. I mean, to be honest, I couldn't make head nor tail of it. So I'm not, Oh, you can you? Yeah.
Take it away.
I mean, I've got some fancies at Ascot, but just not in that race.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this will win. I fancy Scaramanga for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. Paul Nicholls won this race twice in the last 3 years with Adrian Dupont and Malaya, 2 decent handicappers they ended up being. And Scaramanga, to me, looks really well treated off 127. Was a good horse on the flat with James Fanshawe. I think it got up to a rating of about 85, and I think it still could be rated 85 in the flat. It absolutely bolted up at Taunton last time, I thought. Beat a horse of Philip Hobbs' called Melikov. Travelled like a very, very good horse. Seemed to really enjoy it. And won very, very easily. Could have won by double figures. I think this is very well handicapped. And I think he's potentially better. He might turn out to be even better than his last 2 winners, Adrian Dupont and Malaya. So I'd be very, very sweet on Scaramanga. Okay,
DJ, in future I'm coming to you when it comes to these juvenile handicap hurdles because I have no luck in them. James, any thoughts?
Precepts ran well at Cheltenham behind Band of Outlaws, and will appreciate the good ground. He's off the same mark, but again, not a very strong opinion. I think I'd be going with DJ's one there.
Okay, he's a pretty solid horse though, isn't he, Precepts? So wouldn't be putting you off him. The 355 back at Ascot again is the first stage charity novices handicap chase. Another trappy affair. Take us through the betting, James.
We don't actually have this one priced.
You
Maddie.
do not.
No.
That's terrible on my part. Sorry about that. Any fancies anyway? Have you had a look at the race?
I have, and I'd give Highway 101 just another chance. His form behind Clyde Start would give him a right chance here. He should get an easy enough lead as there's no other pace in the race, and if he got into a nice rhythm, he could go close.
You were a big Kildesart fan, weren't you?
I was a big Kildesart fan, yeah. Obviously, I think that form has worked out really well. The thing about the JLT is they went really slowly and then sprinted, and Kildesart shaped like he probably wants 3 miles an hour as well. He just wasn't good enough, let's face it. But, I think it'd have been closer with a much stronger run race, but he needed a proper test and he didn't get one. Highway 101 is decent. I'd be worried a little bit about him on good ground, whether he's quite fast enough for 2 mile on good ground. Obviously, he didn't really stay at Cheltenham on day one over 2.5, but this is back at 2 mile, and he'll go quickly enough, and I think that suits Cad de Lynn down to the ground. And I would expect him to run much better than he did in the Grand Annual. Yeah, he won there pretty easily off a strong gallop the 2 starts ago, so that would be for me.
And DJ, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. I spent a lot of time with Keels in Cheltenham, and one of the first things he said to me on the Monday or Tuesday is, that novices handicap chase at Cheltenham, the race that Kildesart won, Highway 101 was second and Spirit of the Games was third. That is the race going into Cheltenham. I'm going to use that form line. I think it was a brilliant race. All them 3 horses are going to win at Cheltenham, and that is going to make my week. Now, he had an unbelievable week, but not because of those 3 horses. Kildesart was obviously disappointing in JLT. Highway 101 was disappointing. Spirit of the Games ran well. He was third Sire de Lac, yeah. But given your confidence, and I sat beside you when you were doing your tipping column about Highway 101, you convinced me that he had a chance that day, and I am far more forgiving than you are, as you know. So I'm going to give Highway 101
just the
chance.
ground that worries me. If it was soft ground, I think it'd definitely win.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It looks a bad race though.
I like the sound of that. Finally then, the 4:30 Ascot is the Veterans Handicap Chase. I was looking through this race, I thought Rathling Rose was quite interesting. I think he's a pound lower than when he...
Running terrible though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Looks like he's not interested
I think
anymore.
he's been running a little bit better.
Well, no, the pipe horses are definitely running a lot
Exactly.
better now. Like, that is.
In red hot form.
I couldn't have him.
No.
I would take a chance on course winner, Big Bad John, who hasn't run since pulling up at.
So he's been running loads better.
But he hasn't run since pulling up at Wincanton in November, and will come back fresh. And he won a race on firm ground at Wincanton the time before that in October. Likes a bit of good ground, likes going right-handed, and is still young enough at the age of 10 for a veterans race.
Okay, DJ.
Shame on me, but is Joss's Hill not just? I know he's like if you were to
Fences he hits, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know, but like if you were to put horses in jail, this fella would be like he'd be in front of a judge every day of the week, because
you'd have thrown away the key.
Yeah, like he's just one of these that you just know the ability is there, and you go back to like a supreme form and everything. And I just wonder, when you go through this race, when Joss is in a race, and you'll vouch for this, Keels, like he's the first one you cross off every time, but you're crossing him off in grade 2s and really, really hot handicaps, and now you kind of go into this and you say to yourself, hold on a second, he's running against a load of like pensioners who are like way worse than him at every stage of their career, and he could just be a different class. And if he doesn't hit 3, I think he might get away with hitting 2 if he didn't hit 3 fences. Like Ascot,
normal rules don't apply for Joss's Hill, do they?
Yeah, it's just like, it pains me to say it, but he could just be different class to these.
I love that very much. Confidence has had to be have. James.
My notes here have potentially different class to these lot, Joss's Hill, but again, you're kind of taking your life in your hands when you're backing him. He was still going okay when he fell the last day in the race that Glen Rocco won. I wouldn't have completely discounted him that day, so look, he's the one I'm going to go for here.
Yeah, this sort of track, if his jumping does hold up, it could suit him. Any other tips from Sunday's racing?
Yeah, I've got a couple. 320 Ascot, Favorito Bucks back on good ground. Won pretty easily at Ascot in November on good ground. Has run on soft ground since. He's just not a soft ground horse. So now he's going to, he pulled up at Sandown last time. That's only a couple of weeks ago, so hopefully that might make the price for him a little bit. But back on good ground, I think he's going to have a massive chance. And there are 2 in a 310 at Doncaster who go well fresh. Nadir, Kevin Ryan's given a breathing up to. He does that to Brando every year. So it's interesting. He's done it to Nadir. It goes really well at Doncaster. I think he won the race last year, actually. But he's had loads of good form there. And in the same race, Diamond Dougal for Mick Shannon won first time out of Bath last year. Finished the season with a couple of strong runs as well. I think they'll both go well.
Thank you very much. David Jennings?
Very quickly through the Limerick card, it's a really good kind of end of season National Hunt card. Brecon in the first race has his first run for Willie Mullins in the Gold Cup winning colours of Alboon Photo, second in France on his last start. Could be anything. In the 220,
they've had some smart horses come out, haven't they?
They have the Joe Donnelly colours, and Willie just has a few, I'd say, yet to be unleashed. In the 220, Maze Runner was second to Band of Outlaws at Naas last time and could be well handicapped off 126 in that rated novice hurdle at 220. In the Mares hurdle at 255, one of Paul's guilty pleasures is in here, Cut the Mustard, who he tipped in the county hurdle. I thought she travelled quite well in that race, actually. And I thought she was a big player turning in. I'd say he got excited because she was a big price. I think Limerick will probably suit better. And she's running against Black Tears, which is likely to make her a bit of a price. Black Tears was fourth in the Mares Novice hurdle at Cheltenham. I think Chosen Hour will win the 330 for Sean Ahern and Liam Quinlan. In the 405, I was pretty blown away by Burrow Saint last time at Gorham Park. I thought, despite making a couple of really bad errors, I thought he finished with loads left in the tank. So I think Burrow Saint will win the 405. And finally, on a similar theme to Joss's Hill, like, God help me, but I can't believe I'm tipping Joss's Hill and Tycoon Prince in the same podcast. But Tycoon Prince could just be different class to those in the 440. He's been running much better races. He's an absolute... he's an enigma, but I just think he could be different class in the 440.
Brilliant, polite way of putting that enigma. I feel like there were a couple of other words that came to mind first.
Yeah, there was.
To finish, we'll go to James.
Yeah, there's a very interesting horse from the novice race in 235 in Doncaster, a horse called Fox Champion. He was the horse I actually backed for the Coventry last year before he was a non-runner. I just think this horse, I just really think he could be a group horse in the making. Like, if there was a Jersey Stakes market at the moment, he'd be the one I'd be asking firms to put in, and I'd be backing him. I just think going forward, I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up winning a Group 3 and was competitive in Group 1s. And this race on Sunday, obviously it's only a £5,000 prize money, but there's a couple of winners in there and a couple of horses that are, a couple of Gosling and Balding's first time out. I just, he might be half a price, but I just think he could be a really good one to keep an eye on going forward.
Yeah, he's got the penalty, hasn't he? So keep your eye on him. Thanks for joining us, guys. As always, make sure you rate, review and subscribe to these shows, and I'll be back on Monday with a review of all the action. But in the meantime, good luck with your weekend bets.
Paddy Power Games has over 250 of your favourites to play online, and we're going to attempt to name them all in this 10-second ad before the T's and C's kick in. There's Blackjack, 18+, begambleaware.org.